Teachers make the best entrepreneurs. Roby started his career as a lecturer at Stanford University 2 decades ago. Since then, he founded several companies and advises a number of technology startups. He has been connecting the spaces of design thinking and business strategy. At the moment, he supports startups in his role as partner, innovation and technology at Virtual Consulting International. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Roby Stancel.
We're in Bulgaria. A revolution happened in Bulgaria 5,000 years ago. It turned the world from Stone Age to Bronze Age with the first gold mine that actually was in Bulgaria. I'm in Bulgaria not only for Webit, but I'm also visiting a mine, a gold mine in Chelopech, about an hour east of here, which we've digitized and which will make it the most technologically advanced mine in the world. So you're in a very special place. This already tells you what I want to talk about. The real world, in the definition here, is the world that produces stuff, so hardware. I want to talk mainly about the primary sector, agriculture and mining, but of course there's many other things in there. When we developed design thinking, well, 20 years ago at Stanford and IDEO, one of the rules was to be specifically looking at extreme users and customers, because the difference between me as an average person and an extreme user is what gives you the best inspiration. So therefore, I also want to look at the digital transformation in the rest of the world, meaning outside of Europe and North America. But if I talk about the real world, let's be clear about one thing. Software does not do the work, real things and real people do. So unless your software is in some way connected to the real world, you might have a very difficult time to convince people to do something about it. It might be, well, inflation. This is a banknote from Zimbabwe about 10 years ago. And when it's not based on reality, if it's all basically virtual and house of cards, it might fall apart. And then, of course, you really don't want your currency to be worth less than toilet paper. This is a picture I took in a bathroom in Harare. So if you do software, make sure it's connected to something real, and real needs real value. If you are not Google or #1 in your industry, advertising is not a business model. You cannot you cannot live without creating any value and hoping that you're going to advertise. Because digitalization will wipe out many service industries. As an example, as far as I'm concerned, Facebook is not a network, it's an ego trip. Facebook will disappear if they don't manage to buy up all the companies like WhatsApp that could be dangerous to them, because everybody hates Facebook. You, as a poster, hate it because you have to view the world not through your eyes, but through basically a camera lens, what cool picture you could post. As somebody that's reading posts, you hate it because you sit at your desk in your boring life and everybody else is having a great time, which of course is an illusion. Companies hate it because they have to be there. So emotionally, Facebook owns the world, but it is very loaded with negative emotional values. So therefore, I'm waiting for Facebook to be replaced by something else. If I say I want to look at extreme users, I need to look at unexpected places. Another industry that, as far as I'm concerned, will be gone in not so far a future is banking. I'm in Conakry in Guinea, one of the 10 poorest countries in the world. What you see is not a blue trash bag, it's actually a bank. This is at the main market in Conakry. And if I go to this fine gentleman and give him a $20 note, this is what I'm getting for it. If I take this one banknote and go to the market and want to buy something for it, they laugh at me because of course they have no change, because the product I have looks like, for example, the shrink-wrapped little packets of noodles. If I'm an entrepreneur in Guinea, I can afford a kilo of noodles, which I take apart into little packets, shrink-wrap them and sell them for profit to other people which cannot afford a pack of noodles. In an economy where the transaction value is so low, how can you put additional cost on top of that? As a result, for example, Barclays Bank decided to pull out of Africa because there's no money to be made. Prudential also is pulling out of Africa. And the entire world will actually move that direction because Africa started from the extreme end. Africa has figured out all the payments. Everybody travels in Africa. They don't want to pay fees to change between currencies. So of course everything runs on Bitcoin. There is all these ways of transferring from mobile to real world and back. And if you, for example, look at the Yomo picture on the bottom left, that's a statistic about personal loans. I go somewhere with my cell phone and I need a personal loan, and on average, Yomo takes 23 seconds to approve or decline my loan. I needed a loan to buy a house recently, and it took my bank half a year. Not because I'm not credible, but because my bank as of 2008 isn't credible, and so therefore they need to check on everything. At the same time, the whole trust relationship really isn't there, not because I can't be trusted, but my bank cannot be trusted, so there is no value in the services a bank provides at this point, certainly not in Africa. This is a main point here. Innovation happens at the speed of trust, not at the speed of technology. You can dream up the most amazing things if you are able to put together all technologies we have today, but people need to trust it. Here's a simple example for that. Remember when email, well, most of you won't remember when email came up and they said it will replace paper, it will be a paperless office. The opposite was true. The amount of paper exploded after this. Only now, a generation later, you actually have a paperless office as the digital natives come into the workplace and are therefore able to get away with printing out emails or so. So it is about the trust that people pose in something, not about the technology. Let's see, can you start the video for me? This is something that you might already know as a video. Tesla didn't do the world a service by calling their autopilot autopilot. This is a lady driving the Tesla autopilot.
Bill, just put me back for me control it. Oh dear Jesus, I could never. Oh, where's it going? God damn, Bill. Oh my God. Oh, this is so scary. Oh Jesus, this is my first day out and I'm about to die.
Oh, come on, relax.
Oh my God, Bill.
It goes on for a while. You get my point. Tesla throws something out without checking whether people actually would trust this. I very much would disagree with the previous presenter that the automotive industry only caught up on autonomous driving 3 years ago. I sat in the first self-driving car myself at BMW, I think around 2002. They also developed their technology roadmap for autonomous driving. Co-developed, it's always a team as we've heard. And the main point there is they know people don't trust this yet. Technologically, it's been possible for a while, but they are waiting until the society is ready for it. Tesla didn't wait, and I think they're harming. If you do something, you need to make it a revolution, otherwise it's not worth your time. I mean, this for us hardware people is an obvious one. The devices that play the music get smaller, and by now the headphones are getting too big. If you look at what started as a revolution, in this case the smartphone, you continue on that curve, and already when the iPhone 5 came out, it wasn't a revolution anymore. People already started making fun of Apple that the iPhone 6, 8, 10 will look like this. This was meant as a joke, but actually it's not a joke, it's very sad, because this is what happened. It got not only longer, but wider. But as far as I'm concerned, Apple has not had any innovation for years, and everybody's sort of celebrating them for some bizarre reason. And the thing was, it actually wasn't even Apple's idea. Again, it was extreme examples where you had Lufthansa Technik developed basically predecessor to the iPhone. This is a remote for the interior of private VVIP jets. This is private jumbo jets and so on. By definition, this is all for billionaires. They are used to having the best, and in 2000 roughly, this was developed for them. It is a device with a touch screen where you can swipe, where you have applications, where the screen shifts when you flip the phone, all those kinds of things. And then of course Steve Jobs was a customer of Lufthansa Technik looking at his new private plane and saw it there and said, oh, this is what I want too. So Steve Jobs' achievement was the manufacturing and cost of this, because one of these devices cost $1 million. They're all billionaires, they don't care, they want it. So Steve Jobs' achievement was to turn $1 million device into something that sells for $1,000 7 years later. Digitization will revolutionize many real-world industries, so it won't put them out of place. And let me finish with a couple examples of the real world. The automotive industry, which I work in a lot, for example, will still build cool cars, and people still will want to drive their own car because it's freedom and so on. But for example, VW already today announced they will be the better weather service. That means with every windshield wiper sensor and every traction control sensor on every car, they can tell exactly how the weather is where in the world, because they have so many distributed sensors. So they basically, with the car 2 streets down, 1 street down, they can say it will start raining here in 3, 2, 1 seconds now. And they will be accurate, and no satellite can do that. So those industries will be revolutionized. But if I look at the primary sector, the mining industry and agriculture, agriculture equally is going through this. With a flying drone, with an infrared camera, you can tell where there's enough water on the field and where there is not enough. And so therefore you can irrigate very focused, lots of savings in resources. You can have, for example, a spray of chemicals greatly reduced because of this. And you have weeding robots. Optical recognition sees what's a plant that I want and what's a weed and pulls it out. As a matter of fact, you can have infrared lasers that kill bugs. And imagine if you could replace chemicals and genetically modified crops with digital technology. And it is happening, so I'm fingers crossed. Let me finish with a mining example. This is in Australia. I visited when it was 54 degrees at 10 in the morning on a spring day. This is a dangerous place in West Australia, in the Pilbara, where the iron ore industry is based. These 400-ton trucks have the driver sitting up in that place, and if they go to the bathroom, that's their view. There's a scale, basically, of the color of your urine, and if it's too dark, go see a doctor because you're going to drop like flies and you're going to die. So it's a dangerous environment. Therefore, we moved the operation of the trucks to remote control a few years ago already into this remote operating center. So you sit in an air-conditioned office in Perth in Australia, and you have a beautiful view of the Swan River and the ocean behind it. So that's a different view from sort of that urine color scale. In reality, the driver actually sits on something like this and is remote controlling a truck, 400-ton truck, that is 2,000 kilometers away from there. So which one would you rather be? Would you want to be the left or the right? And for the users, it's clear, but also for the company, it's clear. So that because they don't have to fly out, the people provide living spaces for them and so on, they save $2 billion a year because of the digital capabilities. And my final litmus test for whether this is successful or not was this picture. That tower in there is the Rio Tinto Tower in Perth. This was taken with a camera 7 years ago. You'll see how cameras have advanced since. And you need to know that the difference between BHP and Rio Tinto Australia is like Coke and Pepsi in the US, or Mercedes and BMW in Germany or so. They hate each other. And so BHP saw how successful Rio was with this, so they built their own remote operating center. And they made it a building that's super narrow and super wide, and the whole purpose was to block the view of Rio Tinto in Perth. So that's taken earlier this year. So if that isn't success, I don't know what is. Thank you very much.